Rome, Hun 1 BC. Dawn spreads a thin, colorless light across the stones of the Bestias bridge. The Tiber moves slowly beneath it, indifferent, eternal. A crowd gathers in silence. They are not here for spectacle alone. They are here for a lesson. A man kneels naked on the cold stone. His wrists are bound. His body trembles, not from the morning air, but from the knowledge of what waits behind him. He has committed the one crime Rome considers unforgivable. He has murdered his mother. In Rome, some crimes stain the soul. This one annihilates it. Behind him, executioners drag forward a heavy leather sack. It jerks and writhers. The movement inside is violent, frantic. The sack is not empty. Within it are 4 living creatures, a dog, a rooster, a monkey, and a viper. They claw and hiss in the darkness, bound together in terror. Soon, they will share that darkness with him. The lictors step forward with blood, red rods. The beating begins. They do not rush. Each strike lands with deliberate force. His back splits open. Skin tears. Blood runs down his legs and pools between the stones. The crowd does not look away. Children stand on their fathers' shoulders. Senators watch with folded arms. This is justice. This is order. When his body is no longer recognizable as whole, they lift him. Still alive. Still conscious. They force him into the sack. The dog snaps immediately, teeth finding flesh. The monkey claws wildly at his face. The rooster's spurs rake his chest. And the viper, coiled and patient, strikes again and again, venom flooding his bloodstream. He screams. The sound is muffled as the leather is drawn shut. Needles punch through hide and skin alike as they sew it closed. There is no sky for him now, no sun, no air, no earth. The sack is dragged to the river's edge and hurled into the Tiber. For a moment it floats, twisting violently. Then it sinks. This punishment had a name, poena colli, the penalty of the sack. It was not a legend. It was codified in the 12 Tables, Rome's earliest written law from 450 BC. Cicero himself explained its philosophy. Let him be denied sky, sun, water, and earth. Let he who destroyed the life that gave him life be deprived of all elements from which life comes. Each animal carried meaning. The dog symbolized shamelessness. The rooster arrogance, the monkey malice. The viper venomous hatred toward one's own blood. The condemned did not simply die. He was symbolically removed from the natural order. No burial, no rites, no ancestors waiting. Erasure. But poena colli was only the beginning. Rome did not believe in simple death. Death was too quick, too quiet, too forgettable. Rome believed in messages. Every punishment was theater. Every execution was a warning carved into flesh. The method depended on the crime. The suffering had to match the symbolism. Justice was not private. It was public, choreographed, unforgettable. Seneca, who witnessed executions firsthand, once confessed, "I come home more greedy, more cruel, more inhuman because I have been among humans." This was not justice as we understand it. This was power displayed in its purest form. If you betrayed Rome, you did not disappear quietly. You were taken to the Tarpeian Rock. It stood on the Capitoline Hill, rising nearly 80 feet above the Roman Forum. From its edge, senators could look down upon the broken bodies of traitors shattered on the rocks below. The location was deliberate. The Forum was the heart of Roman civic life. To die there was to be condemned by the city itself. The rock was named for Tarpeia, the young woman who betrayed Rome to the Sabines in its earliest days. She had asked for what the soldiers wore on their arms, meaning their golden bracelets. They crushed her beneath their shields instead. Rome remembered. From that moment on, traitors were cast from that cliff. No ceremony, no final words, just gravity and stone. In 384 BC, Marcus Manlius Capitolinus, once celebrated as a hero who defended Rome from invasion, was accused of aspiring to kingship. Ambition alone was enough. He was thrown from the rock he once protected. The symbolism was devastating. Betray Rome, and Rome will cast you out from its very center. For slaves and rebels, Rome reserved something slower. Crucifixion, so brutal that Roman citizens were legally exempt from it. It was for those beneath dignity, slaves, pirates, insurgents. First came the scourging. Whips embedded with bone and metal tore flesh from bone. Then the condemned carried the crossbeam through crowded streets, collapsing under its weight while spectators spat and jeered. At the execution site, nails were driven through wrists and feet. The cross was raised. Death came not from blood loss, but from suffocation. The body sagged. Breathing became a battle. To inhale, the victim had to push upward on pierced feet, grinding torn flesh against wood and iron. Hours passed, sometimes days, after Spartacus's slave rebellion was crushed in 71 BC. 6,000 captured rebels were crucified along the Appian Way. For 200 kilometers, travelers walked past rows of dying men. The message was unmistakable: Rome does not forgive rebellion. But perhaps the most psychologically devastating punishment was not reserved for enemies. It was reserved for Rome's own soldiers: decimation. When a legion showed cowardice or mutiny, they were divided into groups of 10. Lots were drawn. One man chosen by chance was beaten to death by his 9 comrades, not by executioners, by friends. Clubs and stones crushed skull and bone. The survivors were forced to camp outside fortifications and eat barley instead of wheat, marked forever by shame. The randomness was the point. Chance became executioner. Fear bound the survivors tighter than loyalty ever could. And for individual cowardice, fustuarium. The condemned soldier stood before his assembled legion. A tribune tapped him lightly with a cudgel. That was the signal. The entire unit fell upon him. No man could desert after witnessing that. Outside the military, punishment became spectacle. Damnatio ad Bestias, condemnation to the beasts, transformed death into entertainment. Beneath the Colosseum lay the hypergym, a network of cages and shafts. Trapdoors flung open. Animals and prisoners appeared as if summoned by magic. Criminals were dressed as mythological figures. A man might enter as Orpheus, lyre in hand, and for a moment the lion seemed calm. Then the illusion shattered. Flesh tore, blood soaked the sand. During Trajan's games in 107 AD, celebrations lasted 123 days. Thousands of animals, thousands of humans sold wine. Children watched. Nero refined cruelty into performance. Christians were coated in pitch and set alight in his gardens, illuminating his evening banquets. Tacitus recorded that mockery was added to every death. Fire purified, fire destroyed. For those Rome truly despised, death was not enough. Damnatio memoria. Condemnation of memory. Statues were smashed, names chiseled from inscriptions. Coins melted down to speak the name became dangerous. The person was to be erased from existence. Emperor Domitian suffered this fate after his assassination. His image was carved away, his memory outlawed. And yet we remember him, because the absence itself became evidence. Perhaps the most haunting punishment was reserved for Vestal virgins who broke their vows. Live burial. They were dressed in funeral attire and led to an underground chamber provisioned with a lamp and minimal food. Rome claimed it was not executing them, merely placing them in conditions where death would occur naturally. The chamber was sealed. Darkness, silence. Choice between starvation or self-inflicted death. Cornelia, condemned in 91 AD, descended with dignity, insisting on her innocence until the earth swallowed her voice. 12 methods, 12 ways to control not just bodies, but minds. Rome's punishments were not about rage, they were about structure. They reinforced hierarchy, loyalty, fear. Every execution reminded citizens where they stood. Today, tourists walk through the Colosseum and marvel at its architecture. They photograph arches and sunlight pouring through ancient stone. But beneath those stones lay echoes, iron gates creaking, beasts roaring, crowds chanting for blood. The thud of a body striking sand. Rome mastered something beyond engineering. It mastered spectacle as governance. Cruelty rehearsed until it felt normal. Seneca warned that the man who makes punishment his profession begins to find pleasure not in justice, but in punishing. Empires rarely collapse from external invasion alone. They erode when violence becomes ritual, when suffering becomes applause. Rome believed its power eternal. Its ruins suggest otherwise. The stones remain, the screams do not. But the warning endures. Because Rome was not the first civilization to weaponize terror, and it was not the last. History remembers the Colosseum as a monument. It should also remember it as a mirror.